Today, we're going to talk about an ancient remedy that's getting a serious second look from modern science. I'm talking about black seed oil. Now, people have been using this stuff for thousands of years, but what does the evidence actually say? Is it legit?
I mean, think about that for a second. A cure for every disease except death. That is a huge claim, right? It's a massive part of why black seed oil has this legendary status. It sets an incredibly high bar, and you better believe modern science is now putting that to the test.
So, that's the big question we're tackling today. Is this a genuine 2,500-year-old miracle, or is its reputation built more on folklore than actual fact? Let's get into it. We're going to investigate the history and the hard clinical evidence to see what's what. Okay, first things first, let's take a trip back in time. The history of this seed is just incredible. We're not talking about something that's just a few centuries old. Nope, we're talking millennia. Its story is woven through some of the most powerful civilizations in all of human history. I mean, just look at this timeline. It's wild. We start way back in ancient Egypt. This stuff was so important, it was literally buried with King Tut. Then it pops up in the Old Testament. Fast forward a bit, and you've got Hippocrates, the father of medicine, prescribing it for things like headaches and the flu. And later on, the famous Persian physician Ibn Sina was writing about how it boosts energy. The point is, this is not some new health fad. It's a constant thread that runs all the way through medical history. So, okay, what's the secret sauce here? What is actually inside this tiny seed that gives it such a powerful, long-lasting reputation? Well, the answer is in its chemistry. And scientists have zeroed in on one key compound that seems to be doing most of the heavy lifting. All right, first, let's get the official name straight. The plant itself is called Nigella sativa. Now, you might have heard it called other things like black cumin or black caraway. That's the same thing. It's a flowering plant, and it's these tiny little black seeds that are harvested to create the oil. And here it is, the star of the show, phymoquinone, or TQ for short. This is the compound that has scientists really excited. It's the primary active ingredient, and studies show it's a total powerhouse. It's an antioxidant, it's an anti-inflammatory, and it can even fight off certain bacteria and fungi. Seriously, if you want to understand why this oil is so special, you have to understand TQ. Okay, so we've got the history, we've got the key chemical compound, but how does all this translate into the real world? Like, what does it actually do? Well, the strongest scientific evidence we have points straight to its ability to fight inflammation, especially when we're talking about allergies and joint pain. And listen, we're not talking about a small, barely noticeable improvement here. The effect is pretty significant. A huge review of 8 different clinical trials looked at people with allergic rhinitis, hay fever or seasonal allergies, and found that taking black seed was over 4 times more effective at improving their symptoms than a placebo. That is a massive difference. And that anti-inflammatory power doesn't just stop with allergies. Now get this, and it's a pretty bold statement, but it's backed by some solid emerging research. Some studies are actually finding that black seed oil can relieve joint inflammation just as effectively as common over-the-counter drugs like ibuprofen. Yeah, you heard that right. So let's put it to a head-to-head test. In one study looking at knee osteoarthritis, just applying the oil to the skin 3 times a day brought significant pain relief. And other research found that high doses could match the anti-inflammatory punch of diclofenac, which is a pretty common prescription gel. So what this suggests is that it could be a really potent natural option for managing chronic joint pain. All right, let's switch gears a bit and talk about another really popular topic, weight loss and metabolic health. Now, the evidence here is definitely promising, but it's also a little more nuanced, so the details really matter. So the data does show a clear effect. A huge meta-analysis, that's a study of studies, found that people taking black seed supplements lost, on average, about 1.5 kilograms more than the people taking a placebo. That's a little over 3 pounds. So it's not a miracle weight loss pill, but it is a statistically significant modest effect.
But, and this is that nuance I was talking about, that same massive review found no significant change in waist circumference. And that detail is super important because it suggests the weight loss might be from overall body weight, not specifically from that stubborn belly fat, which is what we're often most concerned about for metabolic health.
But even if the tape measure around your waist doesn't change much, the effects on your overall metabolic health are actually pretty compelling. Studies show clear benefits for a bunch of risk factors tied to metabolic syndrome. We're talking improvements in blood pressure, lowering total and that bad LDL cholesterol, and even reducing fasting blood sugar. Those are all absolutely crucial markers for your heart and metabolic health.
Okay, so with all these potential benefits, you're probably wondering about the practical stuff, like how do I actually use this? If you're thinking about trying it, what do you really need to know to do it safely and get the most out of it?
Well, first off, you've got options. It comes as a raw oil, in capsules filled with ground powder, or even in topical creams and gels. Now, based on the studies, a typical dose to take by mouth is somewhere between 1 and 3 grams of the powder, or about half a teaspoon to a full teaspoon of the oil each day. And here's a little pro tip. Stick the oil in the fridge. It's full of fatty acids that can go rancid, and keeping it cool and dark is the best way to protect its power. Okay, now this is incredibly important, so please listen up. Black seed oil is not for everyone. It's generally not recommended if you're pregnant, and if you have any liver, kidney, or bleeding disorders, you need to be extra cautious. And honestly, the golden rule for any new supplement applies here more than ever. Please, please talk to your doctor or a healthcare professional before you start taking anything new.
So after going through thousands of years of history and a whole bunch of modern science, what's the final verdict on black seed oil? Where do we land?
This really breaks it all down perfectly. In the strong evidence category, we've got allergic rhinitis and osteoarthritis pain. That's backed up by multiple high-quality trials. Then you have the promising category, which includes weight reduction and better metabolic health markers. The effects are there, but they're a bit more modest. And for other claims you might have heard about, like for skin conditions or hair growth, the evidence right now is pretty preliminary. We just need a lot more research there. So here's the bottom line. Is black seed oil a cure for every disease except death? No, of course not. But is it just folklore? Absolutely not. It's a legitimate, historically important remedy that now has some really compelling scientific backing for very specific conditions, especially those that are rooted in inflammation and our immune response.
And that really leaves us with a fascinating thought, doesn't it? The journey of black seed oil from inside of Pharaoh's tomb all the way to a modern laboratory, it just goes to show you that ancient wisdom can sometimes be proven right by modern science. It really makes you wonder, what other ancient remedies out there are just waiting for their turn in the scientific spotlight?